All right, let's talk about a piece of tech that looks, honestly, pretty primitive today. But this thing, it was so revolutionary, it didn't just change how wars were fought, it completely rewired society itself. Yep, we're talking about the matchlock.
And that's really the core of it, isn't it? The story isn't just about a better gun. It's about how one single, simple invention could literally erase an entire class of elite warriors and clear the path for the world we live in now. So how on earth did that happen? Let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get why the matchlock was such a bombshell, you have to picture the world it was born into. See, by the mid-1400s, warfare had kind of hit a technical dead end. All the main weapons they were using had a huge, sometimes fatal, flaw.
Just look at the options on the table here. It's a mess of terrible trade-offs. First, you've got the longbow. Thing was a beast, basically a medieval machine gun with that rate of fire. The catch? It took years of intense, full-time practice to get good with it. A huge cost. Okay, so what about the crossbow? Much easier to learn and crazy powerful. It could punch right through plate armor. But it was so slow to reload. I mean, agonizingly slow. You're just a sitting duck out there. And then there was the earliest firearm, the hand cannon. Oh boy, this thing was a total disaster. You had to hold this heavy tube with one hand, and then with your other hand, you're trying to touch a lit fuse to a tiny hole. You can't aim, it's super dangerous, and sometimes you're lucky to get one shot off in an hour. Not great, right?
So you see the problem, right? Armies were completely stuck. What they really needed was a weapon that had the armor-piercing power of a crossbow, something close to the rate of fire of a longbow, and, this is the big one, it had to be easy enough for a regular person to master quickly. They were desperate for a real technological leap forward.
And then, right around 1450, that leap finally came. Enter the matchlock. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some minor upgrade. It was a brilliantly simple solution to all of those problems we just laid out.
So what was the big idea? At its heart, the matchlock fixed the single biggest issue with early guns. It mechanized the firing process. It took that clumsy, unreliable human hand trying to light a fuse completely out of the equation and replaced it with a simple, reliable machine. And the genius was in its simplicity. Here's how it worked. You had this slow-burning rope called a match cord clamped into this S-shaped lever. They called it a serpentine. When you pulled the trigger, the lever would just pivot down, dipping that burning cord right into a little pan of gunpowder. That powder would flash, igniting the main charge inside the barrel, and boom. That's it. Simple, effective, and you could do it the same way every single time.
Now this was the real game changer. Because the trigger did all the work, that second hand was suddenly free. For the very first time, a soldier could hold a firearm with both hands, brace it properly, and actually aim it. I mean really aim, looking down the barrel at the target. The leap in accuracy was just astronomical.
But the innovation didn't stop with just the trigger mechanism. The whole gun design started to evolve around it. You get proper shoulder stocks, right? So you can brace it against your body for stability. That alone could triple a soldier's accuracy. Barrels got longer and were made better, giving the gun more range and power. And they even added a simple little cover for the flashpan, which was a huge deal. Now a gust of wind or a little drizzle wouldn't make your gun completely useless.
So you put all these little improvements together, and what do you get? You get a full-blown revolution. The matchlock didn't just show up on the battlefield, it completely took it over.
I mean, just look at the raw power we're talking about here. Your old hand cannon was lucky to dent armor past, say, 80 meters. A matchlock, it could punch through the thickest, most expensive plate armor from more than 180 meters out. Can you imagine the sheer terror of that? The best protection that money and status could buy was suddenly worthless.
And really, that was the bottom line. Just like that, the age of the armored knight was over. For centuries, they were the dominant force on the battlefield. Their expensive armor, their lifetime of training, a matchlock bullet made all of it irrelevant.
This obviously forced everyone to completely rethink how they fought wars. The old strategy of a thundering cavalry charge, it got replaced by disciplined rows of infantrymen firing in coordinated waves, a tactic called volley fire. Warfare was no longer about a few heroic elite knights. It was now about the combined, disciplined firepower of hundreds of common soldiers.
Now, a revolution this massive, it never stays on the battlefield, does it? It was bound to spill over and start changing everything else. The matchlock didn't just win wars, it started to build the modern world.
You see, what the matchlock really became was the great equalizer. For centuries, the nobility had a monopoly on effective violence. It took a lifetime of training and an absolute fortune in equipment to be a knight. But now, you could take a peasant, train him for a few weeks with a matchlock, and he could kill the most powerful, well-armored nobleman on the field. That changes everything.
There's this quote from Friedrich Engels that just nails it. He said the castle walls were breached by cannon and the knight's armor was pierced by bullets. Gunpowder technology, whether it was in the hands of a king or the common man, just completely bypassed the old feudal power structure.
And from there, it was like a domino effect. Local feudal lords lost their military edge, so their power just crumbled. Who filled that vacuum? Centralized monarchies. Kings and queens who could afford to pay for and equip these brand new professional national armies. And for a regular person, joining that army was suddenly a real path for moving up in the world. You can literally see the modern nation-state starting to form.
This military revolution also kicked off an economic one. All of a sudden, you needed huge leaps in metallurgy to make better gun barrels. You needed chemists to produce massive, stable quantities of gunpowder. And you needed the first real steps toward mass manufacturing to assemble it all. The Matchlock didn't just build armies, it built entire industries from the ground up. And it wasn't a flash in the pan. For 2.5 centuries, the Matchlock was the dominant firearm on the planet. Think of it as the crucial bridge. It's the tech that got us from those clunky medieval hand cannons and paved the entire way for the more advanced flintlock that would take over in the 1700s.
So when you really step back and look at it, it's so clear that the Matchlock was way more than just a weapon. It was a catalyst for change. It dissolved the feudal system, it helped create the first true nation-states, and it kick-started the industrial and tech forces that literally built the modern world.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question, doesn't it? A knight in the 1400s never saw his world being completely upended by a simple metal lever. It really makes you wonder, what's the simple technology in our lives today that's quietly reshaping our world in ways we can't even see yet? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.